Hi everyone, it's Jan from Leadapreneur, and I'm here to do the conversation about the three things, and today we're looking at the three reasons why do organizations die? Because there are three common themes to the death of every organization, whether it's a small company or a big one, whether it's a government or a society. They're all organizations, they're complex social systems, which otherwise are known as organizations, and there are common themes to the death of every single one of them. And I think it's super interesting for 21st century leaders to be aware of them so that we can understand the common patterns and hopefully address them to prevent the death of the organizations that we love. So the first thing is organizations lose their agility. So a good way to think about this is that if you are in a boxing match and you just get punched in the face. If you get punched in the face, it's going to really hurt and it probably might even knock you out. So in the same way, when an organization is in an environment, a big thing might change and it's the equivalent of the organization getting punched in the face. So the easiest way to avoid getting punched in the face is to not be there when the fist moves to punch you. In other words, use your agility to get out of the way. Sounds incredibly obvious, but many organizations do not use their agility to get out of the way. Some common examples are, for example, Canon. Did you know that Canon invented the digital camera? And yet they didn't have the sense to not only adapt to change, but get out of the way of the incoming digital revolution and find a way to respond to it. A better example, in our opinion, is Nokia versus Samsung. Nokia had all the elements in place in the early 2000s to actually build an iPhone, but they didn't. And yet, when the iPhone was launched, they refused to respond to the market. They didn't respond to the change that the iPhone brought and many other things like that. And so what they didn't have was the agility to step out of the challenge and maybe move into a different space or respond differently. They lacked the agility, whereas Samsung, on the other hand, are a very agile organization. They respond very quickly to change and they're immediately in a space, for example, launching the new Gear smartwatch, which connects to their smartphones. The second thing about organizational death is something called resilience. Resilience is defined as the capacity to bounce back from shock. In other words, if you get punched in the face, your resilience is your ability to get back up again and go at 100% of the level you were before. In other words, it's not just about getting up again, it's about being back to 100% capability. So a great example of that, I believe, is when we compare America and Europe after the financial challenges of 2007-2008. Challenge is probably a little bit of a soft word there. Disaster might be better. So what we see now in late 2013 is that America has largely bounced back from that enormous problem of finance, whereas Europe is still struggling with huge unemployment issues and is struggling to find the growth that it needs to go forward. America has the capacity to bounce back, whereas Europe doesn't have the resilience that it really needs and is still under threat at the moment. Finally, we have the idea of coherence. So coherence is the idea of thinking about something like cancer. When cancer strikes, it's because your cells replicate themselves without any inhibition. In other words, they just keep replicating. And what that means is that the overall system loses its own sense of self, what it is about. So in the same way, an organization that isn't clear about itself can just lose itself. One example of that is Sony. So Sony had so many different departments, from movies to phones to cameras to all kinds of technology areas, and they haven't been able to unify that into a common platform. On the other hand, a company like Amazon have been super successful in having a very focused organizational strategy. They built a common platform, the Amazon platform, that enables them to be super focused and super successful. So in summary, what do you need to do as a leader in the 21st century? What does it take to be a good leaderpreneur? Three things: be agile, be resilient, and be coherent. Thanks for listening. See you again soon.